Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from different time zones. Thank you for so much for being here today for the exciting banking webinar, which is focusing on the innovation side. We truly appreciate your time and we hope you're having a fantastic day till now. Today, we are excited to explore an amazing and dynamic topic, which is the next wave of banking innovations, how it is driving the change. It promises to be an engaging and insightful session, and we have four great speakers. We are thrilled to have such a great audience also here with us. But before that, let me begin by introducing myself and AI CoreSpot as a company to all of you. My name is Nitin Naveen, and I serve as the VP of Innovation and Strategy at AI CoreSpot. With nearly a couple of decades of experience working with a lot of consulting firms on emerging technologies, I'm fortunate to have worked alongside a lot of global leaders and stakeholders and some of their truly innovative projects. I'm also joined today by a couple of my colleagues, Arvind and Naveen, who is in the Naveen is in the backstage, and Arvind you can see right in front of you. A big round of applause to them for their dedication and the energy they have brought to organizing this event, and not to mention the whole AI CoreSpot team as well. It's a great team, and we are proud to present all these events which we have been organizing. A quick word about the AI CoreSpot, first of all, to all of you. Founded around 4 years ago, our company serves as a knowledge hub for areas like AI, Gen AI, machine learning, robotics, IoT, and much more. Through our webinars, we aim to keep you updated on the latest technological advancements across various tech sectors. And we have a lot of fresh themes every month. We are gaining momentum as well as we grow around the stage. Our vision is to become the leading global AI-driven community. That's why we'll be organizing events in all parts of and all the time zones as well. A place we want to make it where professionals like yourself can grow together and share the success. We are committed to delivering industry-backed webinars, hybrid events, in-person events, which is built upon credible insights from distinguished industry leaders, subject matter experts, and all our trusted partners. In addition to events, we curate content as well, which is across the blogs, podcasts, videos, and newsletters, making it easy to stay informed about today's fast evolving landscape. For today's session, which is there for digital, decentralized, and disruptive, how is the new era of banking defining it? Our speakers will dive deep into some of the key topics, which includes AI use cases, data and innovation, personalization, cybersecurity challenges, ethical consideration, future prospects, emerging innovations, and a lot more in store. We are confident that the insights, discussions, and ideas you will hear today will spark new things and drive the value out of your things which you are trying to do in the organization or wherever you are. Special thanks to all our community partners for today, which is MSU, Federal Credit Union, InfoVision, and Bread Financial for their essential role in making this webinar possible. Of course, a heartfelt thanks to all our attendees. Your presence is invaluable. Our platform is built to help you gather insights, connect with peers, turn inspiration into action. If you leave with new ideas or strong connections, we'll consider it a job well done from our side. Let me introduce our esteemed panel of speakers one by one to each one of you. Our first speaker is Jay, who is Senior AI Strategy Executive. Our second speaker is Rayan, who is Vice President of Enterprise Analytics at MSU Federal Credit Union. Our third speaker is Jyoti. She is VP of Product at Bread Financial. And our fourth speaker and moderator for today's session is Natarajan, who is Chief Business Officer handling banking, financial, and insurance vertical at InfoVision. He's the moderator as well for today's session. Just a brief disclaimer before we start this session. The views shared by all the speakers are their personal opinions, do not necessarily represent the perspective of their representing organizations. Thank you again, all of you, for being here, and let's get started. The exciting day. I'll hand it over to Natarajan to kick off this exciting panel discussion. Over to you, Natarajan.
Thank you, Nitin and Arvind. And hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like Nitin mentioned, thanks for taking out time joining us from different time zones. We have an exciting topic for today's discussion: the next wave of banking innovations driving change. And we have industry leaders like Nitin had introduced. We have people who are driving AI strategy to CXOs, and we have, a leader driving product services across lending space, and then, another leader driving enterprise analytics data. So we have a lot to learn, and I'm very excited to learn new perspectives, views, from our panelists. And we'll try and take as many questions as possible through the chat channel as well. And without further ado, we have limited time. So, like Nitin mentioned, we have quite a few topics to cover on Gen AI, fraud, data analytics, so compliance, ethics, a lot of those things, right? So let's try and get to as many questions as possible. So with that, I would like to start my first question to Jyoti, right? So we've talked about different waves of banking, right? Innovation has come a very, very long way from we still have brick and mortar banking, but more of them have gone completely online. We have seen online only banks, or even just mobile app based banking and financial services these days. So from your standpoint, Jyoti, what does next wave of banking mean to you, and what do you see it being different from the previous waves of innovation?
Right, thank you. Great question. And thanks for having me today. I'm very excited for the conversation and learning from everyone on the panel as well. And I'm sure we'll get some good questions. So when I think about banking and sort of where it's gone in the next wave, one thing there are a few themes, I guess. The first, I'd say it's going to be a lot more embedded and invisible, more seamless in everything we do. Think about voice assistants to pay your bills, or ease of doing loan checkout online when you're making a basic e-commerce purchase. Personalization, I think, will be key. And I know we'll talk a bit more about finding that balance between being personalized and leaning too far to being creepy. But there is definitely that component of personalization that is really shifting. I think values driven will also be really important in the future of financial services, in terms of, how do we, as banks, issuers, networks, et cetera, really think about the customer and financial literacy, and making sure they're aware of different financial products that are available that can be beneficial to them, and really how to manage across. When I think about the journey of banking, I think we've all, started from the, cash and checks and credit cards and digital wallets and all of that. So I think about an early wave around digitization, right? We looked at ATMs, online banking, basic automation, not very personalized, but it allowed you to do some basic tasks that you needed. Then we got a lot more focused on what I'd say mobile UX, customer experience, right? We think about how payments have shifted over time from, again, cash, checks, credit cards. Now, everything's in our phones. And also, really moving to channel of choice from just web experiences to mobile, and really focused on convenience, getting you the information you need when you want it. And then now, as mentioned, I think there's a lot more sense of how do we be adaptive, how do we give our customers really what they need in the right moment from an education and a tool perspective, and also really thinking forward. And again, this conversation was alluded to, how do we look at trust and privacy and regulation, and ensuring that while we're being personalized and really giving the customer what they need, we all need to do it in a way that's responsible and really meets regulatory and compliance needs. That's
So
my take.
thank you so much for those insights. I know we have come a long way from paper money to digital money, paying through checks to peer-to-peer payments, just using an email ID or a phone
Yeah,
number,
amazing, right? Yeah.
paying through QR codes, right? So I think a lot of innovation I had seen happen after COVID. It was a necessity,
Yes.
rather than a luxury. So banks, financial services institutions, insurance companies across, all industries, they have digitalized, and have done a lot of work on innovation to get products and services, closer to their customers. And I know you also touched on, personalization. We'll talk about that a little bit, more in detail later. My next question is to Ryan. Maybe the past 1.5 or maybe 2 years, I haven't seen any conversation without the word AI or Gen AI. I'm sure all of you guys also would listen to everybody attaching the word to any product services. And I've also seen a recent study where about 95% of the AI, POCs that companies and enterprises have done have not yielded the expected outcome, right? So my question, Ryan, is it really a hype? And how do you transition to meet the expectations? And what can enterprises, or what do we do with minimal effort to get some meaningful results? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, sure can. And to echo Jyoti, I appreciate being a part of the panel here today. I think there is a lot of to a degree hype around this space, and some shoot really big for the moon on some of their initiatives, and they may fail to meet those expectations because they were too granular, or they were too just too big of a shot. And so starting small is where a lot of the effort that we've been putting in is starting with small use cases, small data sets, and really prototyping the ideas and having just adoption tests, and working through what is something that people get excited about, what is something internally for us to just experiment with and prototype and start to understand what it can do. And it could be using ChatGPT or Copilot in your enterprise, or it could be building a chat bot that queries in natural language to your data warehouse, and having some people try it and validate what the experience is like. And you don't have to build, again, minimal effort here. You don't have to build an entire data set for all the things around your institution for it to be successful. You could just focus on transactions and have it, or just member insights, and really practice internally, understand the use cases, and it really get to know what resonates not only internally with your employees or within the organization, but also that member facing component could come over time based on what you learn. And I think some people jump immediately to the member experience, the consumer experience, without really knowing what the experience is for themselves. And so that's some of the what I would say recommendations to really get started with that minimal effort is if you don't understand it, or you haven't experienced it, what it takes to build something or what it takes to use something, just build some stuff, or license or subscribe to some stuff online and start using and kicking the tires, so that you educate yourself into capabilities and functionality that you can then carry forward.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. I guess baby steps, right? Crawl, walk, and then run.
Yeah.
So start with small transactions before you think big. So yeah, appreciate your insights. My next question around that, right? So I know, Jay, you've done a lot of consulting and strategy to CXOs. So from your digital transformation experience so far, what do you think are the most impactful ways technology is shaping customer experience or actually operational efficiencies? So what has been your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Natarajan. Glad to be part of this great panel discussion. Very interesting points Jyoti and Narayan have brought them. But I'd love to share my experiences from the industry. I worked with banks, like from the mortar to now with the AI, how to stage the AI within banking, agentic. You must have heard of agentic AI. But over the past few years, the banking industry has gone a significant transformation, right? Customers now expect seamless, hyper-personalized experiences, and the banks are under pressure to deliver it not even faster, but secure and more efficient way. And technology is the backbone behind all this to deliver the customer experiences and operational efficiency. Let me take the point, the customer experience that you asked first, right? There are like three aspects to it, in my opinion. One of this hyper-personalized experience, omni-channel, and then third one is the robotic experiences, right? So let's take, I think, when we look at hyper-personalized experience, what that means, right? That means we want custom experiences. I'll give you an example. In older days, I needed some transactions. I would go to the bank and then I said, okay, print my statements, and I will go try to put them in on a paper or Excel later on, and then try to make a sense out of it, how much I spent on hotels, how much I spent on groceries. Now look at this. If I go with AI, all I have to do is with the customer experience, how much I spent on the groceries. It not only give us the spent, it says, okay, within your income bracket, within your area, you spent only, for example, $225 a month. And if you compare to the average, other people are spending $250. Ooh, I say, okay, that give me excuse to go to Costco, buy more, spend more, right? I'm below average. Just kidding. I'm just saying that this is how that's a type of hyper-personalized experiences that customers are expecting right now. The second one is omni-channel experiences. No matter what I do, even if I'm filling out a loan application here in my laptop and I get interrupted and then go to the bank, I don't have to restart the process. I started where I left off at home. That's what the omni-channel experiences is. Those are the experiences. Doesn't matter you are on ATM, mobile apps, digital, whatever you're doing, you still are connected to the same line. And the third one is, these advanced recommendations engines, which I said, like, looking at the financial products, right? So if customer has some money left in their saving, it can suggest them, hey, let's move into the money market. You don't need to go to the bank. It can auto-generate the messages to customers to help them make better decisioning. It will not move unless customer has a concern. So those are the things that are very key to the customer experiences. But now coming to operational efficiencies, intelligent automation and AI apps have revolutionized the banking. So, for example, robotic process automation now handles repetitive tasks like loan processing, KYC verification, and compliance reporting. And that is reducing the turnaround time to customer by 70%. Now we can see some banks are offering loans within like hours, minutes, right? That's the result of RPA, robotic process automation, right? The second one is the predictive maintenance in AI. With AI, we can use AI ops to predict when the failure is going to happen. What that is bringing in the operational efficiency, increasing the availability to customers. So there's no downtime. It happened to me like when 11:30, I need like some report by 12:30. Hey, sorry, we are going under maintenance. We'll be back by 2 a.m. Those experiences are gone in the neo technology. And that's what bank is trying to do. Third one is also from the trust and speed, like how much trust we buy from the customers, security. These are all coming into it. It's not just these two. So I will say, to summarize, technology is not just improving banking, it's redefining it by combining AI-driven personalization, automation, secure real-time infrastructure. We are creating an ecosystem where customers feel understood, empowered, and protected, while banks operate in a leaner mode, faster, smarter, and secure way. I'll stop right here. Thank you so much for giving me that question.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate the views, and I share some of them as well, right? So like you said, spending habits, with all of the analytics categories. So how you can identify and know your spending habits. And I know that you're spending more, so which is always good for the economy, right? You have more money, you can spend more. And we've also seen micro investing, right? So we have some financial services companies that actually do the roundup, and then they can invest in savings account. And I've also seen some of the fintech players. So for example, if you buy coffee for $4.50 at Starbucks, and they round up and they get you the 50 cents worth of Starbucks share in your portfolio account, right? So instead of just cash, they're investing in the company stock as well, depending on if it's publicly traded, of course, right? So we have seen all of that. It also reshapes consumer experience from micro investing to micro saving habits, right? So thanks for that feedback and insights. So now I'm going to build on that question, right? You talked about reshaping customer experience and also deriving operational efficiency, because you have to be efficient to be able to um, you know do more with your products and services that enables customer experience. So I want to ask Ryan and Jyoti, based on their experiences now with Gen AI, and you also touched on agentic AI and RPA, Jay. So what is your experience, Jay and Ryan? Are companies focusing more today on streamlining internal operations first, or they're going all out first, putting consumers and redefining or designing their experience and working backwards to say, how can I use the technology to impact that experience? So what are you guys seeing?
You want to go
Jyoti,
first?
Well,
Ryan, go
Sure. Yeah,
Is it Ryan or Jyoti or Ryan
we
or
all
Jyoti?
got so excited. We all went in. Um, I can go really quick, super high level, and then sort of see where the conversation goes. So it's interesting. I don't think it's an or, I think it's an and, right? If you think about if companies can work more efficiently, whether it's our associates on the phone where they can get information faster when they're getting a question when a customer has called, that not only makes that associate's experience better and faster and more efficient to get the answers for how long it takes for a call. But what it also does, it also makes the customer feel better because they're not waiting for a long time, for example, right? They're able to get their question answered faster, more accurately. And I feel like a lot of times when someone is calling into a bank, they're calling because there's a problem, right? And a problem they feel they can't solve in a digital channel, and they want that extra help. So I think it's not one or the other. I really think it's both. And Ryan, I really liked your points on sort of that test and learning into it, right? How do you find the ways to try these little, micro experiences to see if they work both internally and externally? And I think around CX and servicing and all of that, there's a lot of value there to solve both ends, the testing and learning internally, as well as giving customers a better customer experience.
I think, just small, using marketing as an example, right? Having AI help with generating market copy for different segments. Like you
Mhm.
have the segments, and now AI can help you tailor your messaging to each segment, or even down to the individual. But if you have like 6 different segments that part, that member is a part of, or that customer is a part of, you can tailor that conversation using those tools. And that's where we've seen internally from an operational standpoint, a lot of the use cases starting to catch hold and be adopted is the time savings in just, I need this report massaged for better language. And I'm okay writer, but generative AI helps so much with a board report or with an executive summary or something like that, or even a one-on-one conversation that you want to document with an employee. All if you're toiling over just language in a document, that can expedite your ability to do 6 one-on-ones in a day versus documenting one a day, if that's a burden point. But then if you take those use cases and expand it through the organization with RPA and all of the, I have this process documented and I know how to repeat it. That's a great place for an automation where the outcome, the steps to get to that outcome, and automate it. That those are great use cases, and depending on whatever tools that you have in your toolbox. So I do think some of those things, when you think about the customer front end, that's more of an experience that you're going to gain internally, but you're also going to take from your personal life too, and see what other companies are doing in this space and how you can apply it to your members. And somebody may come out with this innovative new way to interact with your financial institution, and you want to tweak it and make it something for your own institution that's helpful, because that experience was that much more. I think at Delta Airlines, I know this is a financial conversation, but like Delta Airlines, I strategically fly with them because their experience is so great. And I would struggle if you put me on United or something in that ecosystem, because they've built such a great member experience. And I think of that when I think about our members and our customers of the credit union. Like, how do we create that suite of member experiences that's seamless and just easy to use?
No, those are wonderful points, Ryan. So I want to build on top of that, right? You talked about personalized experience a little bit. So earlier, from a consumer standpoint, or even for all of us, if we need to know or search something, we used to say Google it. Now, if we want to know something, we say ask ChatGPT. So the expectations have grown continuously or changed continuously. So how do we find those expectations and match it with the way banks or financial services company design their products and services? So how do you match the latest and greatest consumer expectations? So Jyoti, if you want to throw some light on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on. Expectations have changed so much. Before you think about banks, you'd compare banks to banks, Citi to Chase to Cap One, so and so. And then after a little while, we started comparing to the PayPals of the world. But now we're not in that same game anymore, right? People think Google it. You think about all the tools we have at our fingertips. You're no longer comparing a customer experience of a Citi or a Chase to a Cap One. You are now comparing your banking experience to a Google, or to your point, a Chat GPT. The things that have changed the way we do everyday life. You think about maps before, right? You would, for those listening from the US and AAA and Triptych, and you'd go and you'd highlight your route to where you were going. Now in 2 seconds, you get it in Google Maps. The same is true in terms of expectations for banking. Why do I have to go into a branch to do X, Y, and Z? What can I do online, and what information can I get, and how easy can you make it? And I know we'll talk a bit later on sort of trust, compliance, et cetera. And there was also a question I caught briefly in the Q&A around trust and technology. I think technology can build anything we want it to build. I do think trust and privacy is a big piece in the banking world, not only from regulation and sort of what we're all required to do, but money is very personal. And really, individuals are trusting banks with their very personal information. So I think as much as we want to build as many things as robust and slick and whatnot, we do have to be sensitive to the data that we're carrying and the decisions that we're potentially driving for people's lives. So that will be the nuance of sort of comparing banks to like an Uber, right? Waiting for your car. I won't go too much into the trust compliance piece. I think that's a later discussion point today.
No, so just one follow-up question to that,
Yeah.
just before we move on. So are companies taking any additional steps to create a focus groups or design groups to gather expectations from consumers? Because if you look at the baby boomers to Gen X to Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, so there are different groups, and different groups want different things. And the kids these days want instant gratification, like you said, right? Everything is in your phone. You don't need Google Maps, the paper copy, and you don't even have to type anything. You can say, hey Alexa, hey Google, do this, do that, right? So it's all prompt or voice based. So are companies doing anything to get that feedback, right, or the expectations?
Yeah, great. Absolutely. I think companies are definitely doing that. Focus group, some as deep as we're trying to build an experience for X. Let's get people together. And it's really fascinating to learn, exactly to your point, the way people shop, the way people make decisions, the way people want to engage with us or any other, banks or partners is very different. But I will say, as much as yes, the stereotypes are definitely there for a reason. That's why they're stereotypes. I've definitely seen people of different generations adopt tools differently, right? I know people who might be like, oh, I don't know if that they'd really adopt an Apple Pay, but they do. And there's some where you're shocked when they don't, because you're like, the phone's in your hand. What are you doing taking out your card? Right. So it's sometimes really hard to get so specific to that. But I think that's where choice is so important. How do we offer choice? And if you think about, especially banking, as I said, it's personal money and it's very important in our lives. You may always have to call someone, no matter how many tools you build in a sort of digital voice, etc. When you have a charge on your card or a payment taken out of your checking account that you don't recognize, you're probably going to want to talk to someone, right? If your food doesn't arrive, you're probably okay sending a message to Uber and you're a bit annoyed. So I think there will be that sort of push and pull where companies really have to figure out how to meet our customers where they are.
No, absolutely. Like you said in the beginning, money is, always personal. So when there is a dispute or a, potential
Yeah.
fraud, of course, panic sets in, right? So that's when,
Correct.
people don't care about AI or chatbots. They always want, human to
Exactly.
talk to,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
no,
Exactly.
that's a very good insight. Because we're talking about insights and analytics, I know, Ryan, that's in your wheelhouse and sweet spot, because you deal with data analytics all day long. So the next question is for you. So what are some of the examples where you see companies can actually deliver incremental improvements? Because I know you talked about baby steps when we talked about the
Yep.
AI hype. Go for the big things, or moonshot. Start with something basic for your members, from your credit union. So from your experience, what are the examples that can deliver incremental improvements?
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate things sometime because we try to we pack the screen. We have real estate on a dashboard, and we try to pack it with all the data points that we can around the topic or around the insight. And I think that's overwhelming to a degree. And sometimes we create too complex of a model, and we have 10 different ways to view it, because we've pulled so much information in. And I think from just incremental improvement, we've called it agile analytics or agile delivery. Taking that concept of incremental um, additions over time to improve it, but know when to stop. And so, if you're looking at a summary page and it's just kind of that red light, green light, traffic light scenario, is the KPI good or bad? Are you doing good? Are you trending bad? It's yellow, and really simplifying it, and not think like an analyst where I'm going to throw all the data points at you at once, but think like the consumer of the dashboard and the insights, and make it relevant. And I've got executives that shy away from things that we build dashboard wise because it's overwhelming, and we have 1,000 filters and 6 different ways to cut the data, and because we try to answer all the questions in one screen, and that's not the way to go. And so keeping it simple, keeping it relevant to the topics. Maybe you create more personal views, hyper personalization for the members. You can do the same thing internally and create those views of the same data, but tailor it to the audience. And I'll talk about it a little bit later. Working towards what's a curiosity, what's a data curiosity that somebody is just curious about. You don't want to spend 3 days developing something that answers that curiosity when they may never ask you that again. And so you have a way that they can go pull the information that is super intuitive and easy. I'm a big fan, and we're pushing real hard on natural language query, where you can just chat. I want to put our BI analysts out of work. No more dashboards, no more reports. I'm going to give you a BI analyst that you can chat and ask your curiosities to. We'll still have dashboards for KPIs that you can drill into and see trends and things like that. But if you just want a simple graph, or if you just want a simple question answered, how many members in Chicago, that BI agent can take care of that, much like a member would come and ask, what's my routing number for my bank, right? You can ask the chat bot, that chat bot can tell you what that is.
I love it, Ryan. Just because we have some space in the dashboard, don't cram extra data points, right? So we got to know the persona or the type of user. So if it's an internal employee, show only what's relevant to them. If it's an executive or if it's a consumer, so happy employees make happy customers, right? So nice insights. I know I want to circle back with you. You touched on curiosities, but before we move there, I want to ask a question to Jay, because he's advising a lot of CXOs on AI and Gen AI based tools. So I wanted to pick his brain on how is some of the fraud detection model, at least for banks, that's a key use case for AI, agentic AIs or fraud detection model or any other banking process. So how are executives thinking about reducing risk using some of these technologies, and what's your experience, Jay?
Yeah, thank you. Another great question, Natarajan. So let me back up a little bit, then I'll come to your answer. When we look at a very high level view of AI use cases in any industry, not just in banking industry, so I would categorize them into three main categories. First one is a cost, second one is risk, and third one is a product. These are the three main buckets of use cases. When we look at cost, that could be developer productivity, process automation. And then when we come to risk, it is, from the banking perspective, it's reducing the fraud by doing the fraud detection or detecting AML. Then third one is product, which I think a lot of banks and other institutions or other industries are working on it. They are thinking of productizing the data that they have and monetizing and get the value out of it. So it's reducing the cost and also generating the money. So these three are working in parallel. But now let me stress on one thing. Why the banks are so much concerned about fraud. When it comes to AIML, that was one of the first use case. I built one for a bank, a fraud detection model. So if you look at globally, the bank frauds are close to $480 billion as per Wall Street Journal 2023 report. I'm sure it has gone up since then, right? That's just the frauds alone. And then scams are another 475 billion. So think of like they are close to 1,000 billion. And you can see the volume, and US is one of the biggest victim of it. And you can see this is the leak of their profit, which is happening, and which they have to compensate the customers and also to the compliance bodies. So they are doing a great investment, generating money, but this loss is the one they're trying to stop, right? So now look at traditional fraud detections, like, which is very rule-based, very static, and has latency, and then it will detect us after the event has happened within few seconds of delay, right? Now, when we look at new ways where how AIML is detecting these fraud detections, preventions, they have latency as low as 2 milliseconds. And it can detect before the event happened by using the predictive analysis. So it does with the behavioral analytics from customer, how is it, where is spending, what time is spending, what is he buying, and self-learning from data and reduce these false alarms. So I was reading one of the bank had reduced 40% of the fraud analytics by implementing just a deep learning model. That's why if you think of for example, the 40% of that 1 billion leak, if they were having a fraud detection, 1 billion, how much money would it be, right? So now the machine learning models have shifted towards fraud detection, real-time prevention, doing behavioral analytics, And then models are continuously learning, because that was a challenge when I would develop the model. How do we empower the model every day with ML ops, with the new data that is coming in? Because these hackers and scammers are bringing in new methods to hack it, right? So having that fraud detection is one. And then if you're developing your own model, or if you're using third-party product, having those models updated continuously is extremely important. That's where the ML ops will come into. It can ingest the data, retrain the model, and then deploy the model automatically. So as a result, banks are reducing in the model with continuous learning the false positives, protecting customer trust, minimizing operational losses. Right, and then another one is coming up from AI perspective is Gen AI powered developer assistance, right? That's where I was working for a bank, modernizing their mainframe into cloud 2 years ago. And then we had to convert the code from COBOL, 5 million line code, from COBOL to Java, which took time. Today, if you give a code to ChatGPT and say that this is my COBOL code and convert it into Java, it will be done like so fast. Although it may not be like 100% accurate with the business logics that are built into it, we may need a little bit of 20% of human interaction. But that's where the speed is coming into it with AI ops. Having the generative AI developer assistance, I was working with a bank, I was able to identify where we can almost augment and replace 40% of our developer experiences with the auto generation copilot. So those are the things that are optimizing the workflow for developers, reducing time to market, enabling API-driven core banking platforms. These are going to be very important, like in addition to the fraud detection. So I would say, in a summary, AI-driven tools are enabling a shift from reactive to proactive banking by preventing fraud before it happens and modernizing core systems faster and more securely. That's where the generative AI I was bringing up, the converting the code. Banks are becoming more resilient with this, efficient and trusted. And the future of banking is lying in embracing AI, not just as a tool, but as a strategic partner in reducing the risk. I think that's my opinion, and I would love to take any questions if you have it. Appreciate it.
No, so that's actually good to know that banks are adopting a fraud detection model. Essentially the consumer behavior analytics, right? You study their spending habits, behavior, to proactively identify fraud than being reactive.
Yeah.
So for doing all of that, right, the models actually need the right data, right? So you have to first train the model to find anomalies, and then it uses that learning to check the real-time data to ensure that it's a false positive or is it a real fraud. So now, since Ryan, you specialize in data and analytics, so what are your views on what type of data needs to be embedded in the across different departments to avoid false positives, or the you called it expensive curiosities or hallucinations? So what are your views on that? You're on mute, Ryan.
I do think about like the value and the time it takes to produce insights and wrangle data, do some aerobics and get it in front of people. And one of the questions that I ask a lot when we're requested to do something is, how does this fit into your daily process? How does this fit into the strategic decision making? And is it something that we can embed into that process? And a lot of times it's a great conversation to help vet whether it's a curiosity or some sort of rabbit hole that somebody's going down just because they're wondering this for themselves, right? It does help them to a degree make a decision, but they may never ask that again. And so I'm a big process map. I love visualizing processes. And one of the things that I think we miss sometimes is putting the data points or putting the source systems and the data that you're getting into those processes. So that way you can start thinking about, well, to make this decision or to service this member or to look for fraud, I go into these systems and I pull these data sets. Okay, great. Now that you're you're identifying those data sets, and there's a point in the process for it, how can we enhance that? How can we enhance the use of that data? How can we build tools to make that more automated, more efficient, more proactive, right? And it could be applying to any process that you have. It could be help desk just trying to understand trends in calls from either our membership or our employee base. Just trying to, what data do you process to when you get to that decision point in your process? Is I do this if it's this, I do that if it's that. What data are you using to make that decision, and how do we better that data? How do we better the embedding of the data, and how do we automate or refine it, right? And I think that's a great opportunity for folks to try and rethink how they think about their processes. Like if you're mapping it out with sticky notes on a wall, don't forget about the data and the systems that you use as part of that mapping, right?
No, so that's interesting. You talked about data and model, and I saw one question in the chat as well. So question to Ryan, you and Jay. Is it better to do all of this internally, because you have the data and the logic that you want to apply, or is it better to adopt and implement any fintech partner who specializes in a niche, right? Like say fraud analytics or fraud models from specific fintech partner that can be bolted onto your legacy systems, right, in your own enterprises. So which one do you think would benefit?
I'll take.
I think it's
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say real quick, Jay. I think it's you have to evaluate the benefit of the cost of building versus buying. How mature is your organization at maintaining technical debt of building it yourself versus outsourcing it to a degree to a third party that specializes in it. And I think that those are tough decisions depending on your organization. Some they may be easy depending on your organization as well. Like you may have a strategy to build versus buy or buy versus build. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ryan. It's I've seen what pattern I've seen, right? Is it's great to have a learning curve, initially have our teams build, understand how the technology works, how to put the building blocks together, right? This is what I had done. Was working for a bank. We played with the training data. We developed a model, and then the first time we got like 70% of accuracy in fraud detection, but eventually we were able to fine tune the models, and then we were getting over 90% of accuracy. But now the complication comes in, as I said, is maintaining it and running it in an MLOps, but that's not a challenge. But that's just another effort that we have to think about it. Now, I'm also working with TX Minds, who is a company, I'm a board member there, who is helping the organizations, bigger financial clients, to develop models and then also into ML ops, and also maintaining their, looking at their utilization of AI models, how they are being used, how effective they are. I think those type of tools can be brought in from third-party vendors to evaluate your model as we are going forward. So in a nutshell, yes, if it's too complicated, if we want a niche services, bringing in partnering with the third-party vendor is definitely going to help. But at the same time, we also need to learn how the actually things work and actually see if it is bringing the value before we partner with any vendor.
Okay, thanks, Ryan and Jay. I know we have 10 minutes left. We still have to cover, a few more topics in terms of, cost, trust, compliance, etc. So I want to go a little bit, quick with the next set of questions. So Jyoti, you talked about, personalization, in the beginning, right? And now we're talking about creating your own things within your enterprise or even adopting partner solutions. But in both cases, it still needs to be personalized to the product or service, that the company is delivering. Um, so what level of personalization do you think, is adequate, and how far is too far? I know you mentioned that comment earlier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, look, I'm all for personalization. I tell a lot of people I love that Google Maps reminds me when I need to leave for dinner so I'm not late, especially with the New York City subway system or traffic. So to that extent, it's helpful. It's nice. Google already knows everything about me. And I think similarly in finance, financial services, banking, et cetera, there's a piece that's around tailored financial advice, right? Is it around how are you looking at your spending habits, right? Jay, you talked about the groceries as an example, right? Hey, you spend this much, last month you spent that much, set some goals, maybe customize plans, etc. That makes sense. And it's also something where the customer is able to also help define, right? I have X, Y, and Z goals, help me manage my spend. The other piece could be around smart recommendation. Same thing. Oh, I need to remodel my kitchen, something's happened, there was a leak. Oh, maybe a personal loan's a good idea for you, and sort of build those experiences. Or I'm saving for a future trip, and those are opportunities for both the customer to benefit by getting a sense of what their financial institution offers, um, to really help them in their journey. And then how do we think about also proactive support, right? Oftentimes we say when we build our, web and mobile experiences, of course, we want our customers to come to us and engage, but there's also something to be said for how are we giving them the information they need? Hey, I know you normally pay your X bill on this date. I'm noticing your checking account's running low. Try to avoid an overdraft. How do we get ahead of something like that based on their patterns versus just generic alerts? Um, as we look at design, right? Inclusive design across the board and everything that we build, I think is really important for customers. Now, let's go to too far really quickly because I know we're going to run out of time. One is let's be cautious in what we're offering customers, right? This isn't about sell everything to everyone and really putting customers in a pressure situation. Um, so I think that's important. Data privacy, I think, is really critical as well. We can't forget that again. We are holding a lot of data. How do we look at, I know I can't recall who mentioned it, sort of people are trying to monetize their data, but we have to think about anonymized data, right? We're not selling Ryan's data, Jay's data, et cetera. And again, how do we think about really not getting too much on someone's emotions either, right? It's one thing to say, oh, you may overdraft, but you don't want to go down a path of saying, oh, I can't believe you got yourself in this situation, right? It's very much about how to be helpful and supportive where customers are.
No, so far I know we've talked about taking baby steps, starting small and then go to larger transactions, especially if you're doing POCs. We also talked about build versus buy, when to leverage partner solutions, and even whether you're building on your own or leveraging somebody else's solution, how to personalize, right? Now all of this comes with the cost. So my next question is, what are the things that companies are doing to align the CIO goals with the CFO goals? And then there is a CISO, right? Just to make sure that, whatever we're building is safe and secure, right? And you touched on privacy as well, Jyoti. So Jay, what do you think companies should do aligning these three, CXOs together? So what they are building fits within the budget and uh, cost optimal and safe and secure. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Natarajan. So just a thought, like scaling the digital initiatives isn't just about the technology. It's about the alignment. Now, CIO wants innovation, CFO focus on the cost and ROI, and the CROs are safeguarding compliance or security, or CRO or CSO, right? The real leadership challenge lies in building trust, fostering the collaboration, and balancing speed with governance. Sometimes what we overlook, we have to we have to meet deadline and we have to deliver something, and then we say, okay, well, governance will take a look at it later, right? So I think that is extremely important. So when I work with leaders, I use strategies like letter of influence, right? Or CRE framework, where we say claim, reason, and evidences, right? And then using the strategies like social proofing, scarcity, and investing on a social capital, and building strong alliances between these C levels, like CRO, CFO, and CIO, and having the collaborative leadership skills that will help maintain your trust and credibility across the organizations. Right? So these are the first some key leadership strategies that I focus on. So we need to bring, for example, we need to have a transparency with the what I've done is like creating dashboards, which are not just giving us what technology is doing, but from the cost perspective, and also from the risk perspective, security perspective. So having that unified dashboard, scenario modeling, doing predictive analytics, those are going to be key strategies, right? So I'll wrap it up. I know we are short on time, and so we say the one half is just doing these dashboards, and other half is like a leadership alignment, which is the key to it, right? By crafting shared vision, making the data common language, and embedding risk awareness into the innovation, we can create an environment where these digital initiatives can scale responsibly and also successfully, balancing the speed and the trust. That's it. Thank you so much, Natarajan, for the great question.
Thanks, Jay. So I want to add a couple of things on top of what Jay you mentioned, and Ryan, this is for you. So we talked about cybersecurity, and even bad actors are also leveraging the same power of AI, Gen AI, and because you deal with data and insights. How do you keep from a cybersecurity standpoint, your models, your data, safe and secure? So how do we satisfy CRO or CISO's needs, and how do you define directionally accurate versus complete accuracy from an outcome standpoint? Mute. Right.
From my perspective, I think a couple questions there. Obviously, we have standards around security, and as we're building things, we're trying to take those into account right off the bat. Even though we're trying to move fast, be innovative, we want to make sure that we're incorporating thinking far enough ahead and big picture about the security aspect, and making sure that's before we even prototype, like how do we address those issues. And those are the things that I would say. Jay, I don't know if you want to add color to that, because I think the question was to both of us.
Yeah, so I think adopting the zero trust architectures and having the AI-driven security, your AI defenders, are leveraging it to now it's like AI competing AI. That's a big challenge right now. Looking at their techniques that they are using, and I think having the partnership with the security, with the cybersecurity, is not optional anymore. Having a good strategic cybersecurity partners, which are focusing just on the security, are going to be very helpful for as we move forward, because it's hard for our organization to keep up with all the things that are happening and purchase these security. There's niche companies are focused on that one, so I think that will help as well. Thank you, Ryan.
So Nitin, Arvind, do we have time for one last question before we wrap up?
Yeah, we can take it. Yeah.
Okay. So I know some of the questions in the chat also talks about compliance, customer trust, right? So my last question is, how are banks balancing compliance requirements? I know Europe came with the AI Act. I think that's the only solid act in the world governing AI from a risk approach standpoint. I know Texas also rolled out something. So how are banks or financial services institutions balancing innovation or adopting AI with regulatory compliance and customer trust in an ethical way? Jyoti, if you can throw some color on that.
Sure, yeah. I think some of it was sort of covered on in terms of partnership and collaboration. I think anything that we do when we say innovation and change, you have to do it as a core group. It can no longer be a product team or a technology team runs off, comes up with some crazy idea and just says, let's go build it. I think everything bottom up, top down has to be done across all the teams together. So have compliance in the room, other risk partners, cyber, all the sort of different roles that have been talked about today. It has to be done together. I think the other thing that we have to do is also be able to question, right? A lot of times there's probably a good push and pull between sometimes product and controls partners, but really understand what is the real regulation, right? From a pure facts perspective. And then what is it we're trying to build and how does it benefit our customers and what are the risks and rewards, and really have that conversation to come up with a solution versus doing anything in a vacuum. And then the other piece I'll say is, banks probably have an advantage when it comes to regulation. That might sound a little crazy, but a lot of us who've been in the banking industry, financial services for some time, know how to work in a space where we have to have high ethical standards, where customer protection is literally at the core of everything we do. So it comes naturally to a lot of leaders, I think, in the financial services space, where, as we continue to grow, we continue to bring that thought leadership in building innovation in a ethical, resilient, and sort of compliant manner.
So I guess three core things that companies needs to focus on. So one is removing bias and discrimination. The other one is traceability and repeatability, right? I think these are three core things in a model, so that you use the same input every time, you don't get a different output, right? So there has to be some consistency, and it cannot be prejudiced as well. So I mean, that's a very important point of having all of these leaders, especially when you're adopting something new, to ensure all of these boxes from user experience, cost optimization, and a regulatory compliance. You have to select and tick all the boxes. So this is a very good conversation. I know we couldn't cover even a few more questions, moving all the way from paper money to cryptocurrencies. So maybe we'll save it for a future discussion. But thanks for all your time, insights, inputs, and sharing your experiences. Back to you, Nitin and Arvind.
Thank you, Natarajan. You expertly moderated today's session. Thanks a lot for making that happen. I know there are a lot of questions which you have to cover. Time is so less, but that's the beauty of webinar. In any one of you feel that there are some questions which are unanswered, you can get back to us, and we'll try to reach back to you with the right answer. Thanks all the speakers as well, Rayan, Jyoti, and everyone who is there, Jay. So we thank your willingness to collaborate and impart your knowledge, which I'm sure has enriched our event and given it a great ramp. For those who missed the live webinar for today or wish to revisit the discussion, the recording will be available soon on our company's YouTube channel. Just for your information, the event was also broadcasted live on the LinkedIn Live for greater accessibility. Looking ahead, we are excited as a platform to explore the latest technological innovations throughout the year. Our upcoming events will span various sectors, which includes the banking, financial insurance, media, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, retail, telecom, and so much more. So stay updated with tech news, upcoming events, registrations, details by visiting our website, and follow us on our social media channel, which is very important because you will get all the updates through that. Your engagement is invaluable. Please continue to interact with us and share our content within your networks. We extend our heartfelt thanks to InfoVision for this event. They are the knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner. Discover more about InfoVision, about what they are doing, and the groundbreaking tech solutions which they are exploring. Their website is infovision.com. Thank you once again, all of you, for your participation and support. We look forward to hosting more insightful sessions. Wishing you a wonderful day, productive week, and a transformative year ahead. Thank you.